Hi guys, good afternoon. I hope this video finds you well. Hope you're all doing good today. This is going to be my next video. I'm going to talk to you today about intellectualism. Okay, I'm going to talk to you mainly. I'm going to emphasize on the need for a new 21st century school of intellectualism or several 21st century schools of intellectualism wherever required. And we will also show you why the entire idea of the concept of intellectualism is in an dire need of an overhaul. Okay, what exactly is who exactly is intellectual? Intellectual is a person who uses his brain or his brawn. Brawn is something which is associated with muscle power. Okay, sportsmen, for example, are not use their brawn. However, an intellectual uses his brain more than his brawn and uses it for the good of others, for the good of society, etc. So, intellectualism is a mental perspective that emphasizes the use, development, and the exercise of the human intellect, God-given intellect. Okay, it is identified with the life, way of thinking, and the mind of an intellectual, his approach and attitude to his life, and how he orchestrates his talents and skills in the needs of in the service of society. Okay, the idea of intellectualism is not new actually. In some way or the other, some form or the other, it has been known since ancient time. It has been known since the time of the Babylonians, Mesopotamians, Egyptians, Sumerians, Chinese, Indians, and later Islamic thinkers also. Okay, who were contributed to science and scientific development, who castigated dogma and eschewed rigid modes of thought and thinking. Okay, the term intellectual is generally traced to older Latin or origin. The word, Latin language itself is defunct, non-existent. However, in the English language, the term intellectual is traced to the year 1813. Okay, and in the modern sense, it has been reinterpreted and recast in many different ways, myriad of different ways, by thinkers and intellectuals such as Bernard Russell, Arthur C. Clarke, and several other modern thinkers, including critical thinkers. So intellectualism, there is varying perspectives and varying schools of thought on how intellectualism comes about. Some people like Gilbert Ryle, David Lewis, and Lawrence Ramiro believe that intellectualism is innate and inherent to the individual. He is born with it. Okay. Others such as Jason Stanley, Timothy Williamson, John Bergson, Mac Moffat, Paul Snowden, and others believe that it is it is I mean associated with societal constructs and the atmosphere that he imbibes in society, and this may be acquired through parenting, acculturation, etc. Okay, and there are variants of this approach also, and Noam Chomsky and Jerry Feder among others, they also support the idea of innate intelligence and innate superiority of some individuals over others. Okay, so an intellectual mainly, he primarily chiefly uses his intellect to solve real world problems. That is why this the concept of intelligence may not be nerdist, it may not be must not be associated or equated with ivory tower pursuits. It must be combined with practicalism. We had written about the idea of practicalism as a core and key philosophy of science in a paper. This we believe is a vastly improved approach over pragmatism, because pragmatism does not merely prioritize and look inwards by taking societal problems as a base. That must be the approach. Okay, it also needs to be combined with innovative creative thought and thinking. It also needs to be combined with science activism or scientific activism. It needs to be combined with the rationalism. Okay, rationalism is the idea of concept that all aspects of human thought must be based on reason and knowledge rather than on religious belief or any kind of an emotional response. Okay, we must also fight for all salient issues. We must fight for pressing, burning, and important key issues of the day must be fought for, and challenges must be sought to be uh, solved through the mechanism and medium of intellectualism. Okay, intellectuals typically have high IQ. Okay, of course, the idea of IQ test, which includes both fluid and crystallized IQ test, is not exactly foolproof, and it does not offer bulletproof reliability because there are many lacunae in this kind of an approach, as we have previously discussed. And some of these people may also be admitted to the Mensa Society, which is known as a high IQ society. Again, this is open to criticism. People must provide evidence-driven, evidence-based criticism, and we have different type of intellectuals and thinkers. Okay, for example, we have left-wing thinkers, and the left-wing thinkers call for more government invention, less freedom, personal freedom, more common ownership of assets, etc. Whereas right-wing adherents call for private enterprise, less governmental control, and they feel that big government is bad. Also, the idea of left and right came from the time of the French Revolution. It is attributed to a seating arrangement in the time of the French Revolution, where people who advocated left-leaning ideas were asked to sit on the left-hand side of the center stage, and those who advocated right-wing ideas were asked to sit on the right. So the concept of left and right stuck from there on, and it spread slowly and eventually to other parts of the world. However, the concept of the term intellectualism may vary from context to context, so they would be different. There would be differences between this, though the basic concept at a high level is almost the same everywhere in the world. There are, of course, uh, viability solutions possible. We are pitched in centrism or neocentrism, and bottom-up, trickle-up models are possible. Keynesian development models are possible for developing countries because people in developed countries may not realize this. There are different socio-economic groups, socio-cultural groups, etc. And this type of approach, like trickle bottom up approach, using government intervention and large scale government spending, unlike in the Gujarat model, we have other viability solutions. For example, we have the Kerala model of development, Odisha model of development, and the less impressive Dravidian model of development. These are different from socialism because the former lead to faster and more equitable growth also. We had several important intellectuals from time immemorial. Examples of these were Thomas Abbott, Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon contributed immensely and humongously to the philosophy of science and scientific method. We also had the French intellectual Voltaire. He was a fervent and he was a fervent advocate for freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the separation of the church and the state. Okay, this type of intellectualism is attributed to the Renaissance and Enlightenment. In India and Islamic countries, sadly and unfortunately, we have not seen this kind of a resurgence of intellectualism. It's a crying hour. I need an hour of the day, and we can provide the basic concepts, theoretical concepts to drive this forward in both in India, in the Asian countries, and particularly Islamic countries. And India is coming under the onslaught of Hindutva and other ideologies, which I strongly believe are not in the interests of intellectualism in the long run. Indian intellectualism in the long run. Agreed, Hindutva was a reaction to Marxism and colonialism, but we may also need to have a reaction to the reaction. Okay. Other intellectuals, Maki the Pondose, he supported free markets, public education, constitutional amendments. He also submitted, subscribed to feminist rights and equality of people of all races. We also had the famous left-leaning thinker, Das Kapital. Karl Marx wrote Das Kapital and espoused the doctrine of communism. His concepts were fraught with disastrous consequences rather unfortunately, however well meaning his ideas may have been. And the term public intellectual describes the intellectual who participates in the public affairs and it contributes to discourse, intellectual discourse in society, in addition to his own academic career, which may or may not exist in parallel. Okay, these people typically do not advocate purely nerdist and non-theoretical approaches. They attempt to understand society's problems, and we do have some kind of resurgence of intellectualism. However, this needs to be pushed a little further. We need to push the envelope a little further because we are still punching well below our weight. India particularly, our economic performance, intellectual performance, all these things are at pedagogy, education system, all these things go in hand, and little has been done in order to understand the correlation between all these. We have new thinkers such as Dhruv Rathi and Ranveer Al Habadia. Dhruv Rathi publishes a wide range of issues pertaining to India and various aspects of Indian society. People may or may not agree with him, but he does constitute some kind of intellectual. Ranveer Allahabadi is also very open-minded. He has been interviewing large number of people, and he has won some prizes also. Okay, Marxist intellectualism unfortunately has been relegated to the background, and now it is withering away. It is fading away with the passage of time. It has devolved completely, and it has failed to meet its objectives. Marxists basically they are only driven by a narrow set of considerations, and they, in some ways, of course, everything needs to be substantiated and proven with hardcore evidence. They may even be anti-science, anti-history, anti-India, and anti-truth. Okay, and left-leaning intelligence, what they do is they are pro-socialist. Okay, and we know that socialism has failed. Instead, we need bottom-up models. Left thinkers are also anti-globalization, which is a reality. Okay, and they fight for old issues such as class struggle, and new issues must be identified continuously. Now we need not keep fighting for issues which are no longer necessary at this point in time. Okay, and old issues may be recast as necessary. We need to fight higher and higher policies, notice period for employees, etc. All these things we may need to fight, but it must be done in a democratic kind of way, and after taking into account the need of needs of diverse set of people, aspirations of diverse set of people, and the requirements of diverse set of people. And there are other solutions. For example, Karl Marx wrote in the 19th century, and concepts such as social security did not exist. Now we have social security in a big way. People cannot be allowed to starve to death in most decent societies. We have so welfareism, welfare states are picking up. So Karl Marx in many ways may be outdated. We need to acknowledge this as well. Okay, instead of that blindly believing what Karl Marx said, it's not a good thing at all. Okay, and there are many causes of low intellectualism, where intellectualism in India. Many there are very few high caliber intellectuals in India, and that is the reason why we have low and scientific and intellectual output. We blindly ape and imitate the West, or another group of people blindly rejects what happens in the West. These are all attributed to religious, social and cultural factors. There is often no tolerance for conformism. For example, as Baba Ambedkar said, if a man grows long hair, washes himself in dirty water, people flock to him. Whereas if people speak the truth, nobody listens to him. This is also associated sometimes with is very much true actually. There's no way you can deny what Ambedkar is saying in this regard. We also have the concept of cancel culture. A person who acts inappropriately is ostracized. Okay. Marxists, of course, are not interested in the idea of low intellectualism in India. That is the state. They are only interested in something, pushing an ancient and obsolete and antiquated agenda. Arundhati Roy, for example, has contributed nothing to India that I am aware. She wrote a book criticizing Gandhi from the Marxist point of view, that is fine. But she has compared and reckoned India to a plane flying backwards. She even says that Indians have lost their moral compass, and they secretly want to push the old Nehruvian agenda, and they want they're clamoring and hankering for the ghosts of the past which no longer exists. Okay, I would say she doesn't have a moral compass to speak of, or she doesn't have any fecund or fertile imagination to speak of. Dianja, for the other hand, is a hardliner, a dogmatist. He keeps reiterating the fact that India never had a golden age. Okay, this is a highly subjective assertion, and they resort to ideologically driven discrimination between religions, which is not fair. Marx says even in 2008, 2009, they opposed the Indo-nuclear deal, which puts pragmatism at the backstage and which promotes ideological driven criticism, which may even be anti-national. For example, Harkishan Singh Sujit clandestinely supported in China during the Indo-China war. Okay, Hindutva people, on the other hand, have a narrow view of Hinduism. Okay, they promote mostly Brahminical Hinduism, and Dravidian nationalists resort to obsolete historical models. Sometimes they believe in the old Aryan invasion theory, which anyway is already dead. Okay, the Dalit nationalists also subscribe to obsolete historical models. Some Islamic groups support Islamism, and I have some Islamic friends. Some of them are very good people, but they get swayed by their own ideologies, and they try to emphasize more on Islamic values such as fasting during the month of Ramadan, triple talaq, etc., which may not necessarily be the most important values today, required today. Okay, some of them ideologically ideologically driven attacks are often made by some Islamists against Bangladeshi writer Taslima Nasrin and others. If you watch Naik's videos, you will still realize that many people still promote religious driven values, when the emphasis on the 20th century must be on secular and religion neutral values. Okay, So you are also welcome to listen to the views of other Islamic preachers such as Bilal Phillips, Shabir Ali, Mufti Meng, Anjem Chaudhry. Some of them are Islamic fundamentalists, some of them are not fundamentalists, some of them are open-minded, but they still are pushing an agenda. Okay, and at the same time, you must realize that religions will only decline slowly because religions are associated with humanity, some strongly, some not so strongly. Religion also plays a crucial social, cultural, personal, political, and economic roles. They also play many other roles such as these, and they will not decline so easily. But still, we must set the process in motion, get the ball rolling, and the first we have proposed various gods that failed also. We had written about the 10 gods that failed. That's our opinion, but I think most readers, 99% of you here will agree with. The god that failed part one was Marxist economic praxis is hopelessly antiquated. For example, if you see technology stagnated because of socialism in India, if you go and read the history of the automobile in India, for example, the first car in Asia came to India in 1897, imported by an English man. The first Indian to own a car in India were Bikaji and Rastam Kama in the year 1901. It was an Oldsmobile curved dash model. And the first lady to drive in India, car in India, was Susan R.D. Tata in 1905. The first competitive event for automobiles in India was in the year 1905, before Japan. So India, even though we did not develop any technology on our own during the colonial period, every new technology which was invented came to India immediately. It was not the case during the period of socialism. Okay? We had to succumb to autarky, and there was a huge technological lag in India. So you must take all factors into consideration. While on one hand we need to promote our own industry, we also cannot close the walls around us, and we cannot make ourselves immune to technological developments that are happening outside India. Okay, so the second god that failed was Marxist historiography. I have criticized Marxist historiography extensively before. The god that failed part 3 was left leaning intellectualism. The god that failed part 4 was the eradication of religion. So there are different approaches to religion. First concept is strictly secular approach, which says that all religions are equal. This was promoted by Nehru. This is maybe they wanted to promote a modicum of clinical unity among people practicing diverse faiths. However, this is factually incorrect. All religions are not equal. Hinduism cannot be equal to Islam. Both are different ideologies. Religious inspired approaches and values state that my religion is superior to your religion. Every religion wants to claim that, but this is untenable. Okay, counter ideology inspired values. Marxists, ex Muslims, typically Marxists subscribe to ideology driven differentiation between religions based on their own ideals, because Hinduism unfortunately had a caste system, and Marxism had no caste system. They are more inclined to support Marxism. This is known as Islamo leftism. Islam is also anti West, so they have that anti-West streak in them. Ex-Muslims also may turn against their religion and become aggressive anti-Muslims. And the fourth approach is we need to have a balanced evaluation of religions, taking into mind account and consideration the fact that all religions cannot be equal. So we have got the God that failed part 5, over centralization of power. Actually, Indira Gandhi over centralized power with the disastrous results and consequences. Punjab, Assam, Kashmir wanted to break free. Part six is imposing linguistic uniformity. Also was a characteristic of Marxist approaches, but this had disastrous consequences. Family planning. Sanjay Gandhi advocated forced sterilization in 1975 during the infamous emergency. This put family planning in the back burner and set India back by several decades, as you are all aware. Okay, again, God that failed part 8 is basis of nationalism. You cannot have a basis of nationalism based on a monocultural idea, okay, monolithic idea, because India is diverse. We have three, four religions, we have 22 major languages. We have to accept that India is unity. We are not communist state, and we are not in a position to obliterate or annihilate all the differences by a mere stroke of the pen. We cannot do that. And God that failed part 9 is a theological concept of God. Okay, Atheists take one stance. People who subscribe to religion take another stance. I believe all these contradictory, mutually contradictory approaches ignite each other's, and they actually promote counter ideologies even more. Okay, one kind of bias, as we have famously said, legitimizes every other bias. Okay, and the God that failed pattern is the basis of rationalism. This is not that important, but we believe that rationality is important, but at the same time the importance of culture cannot be discounted. So we had also proposed a concept known as intellectualism by objectives, and objectives of intellectualism must be clearly defined and redefined from time to time. We have, for example, may need to fight racism, apartheid, class struggle, slavery, slave trade, gender inequality, religious fundamentalism, human rights, individual liberty, child rights, child abuse, drugs trafficking, substance abuse, alcoholism, use of tobacco, environmentalism, global warming, sustainable development, inculcation of scientific temper, trickle up economic, universalization of education, better pedagogical techniques, the development of scientific historiography, international peace and harmony, development of critical reasoning among individuals, fighting Eurocentrism in science, etc. Feminism is also very important, that must also be borne in mind. And the prioritization needs to be done, and this must be combined with critical, innovative thinking ideas, and we must take globalized approach and not a Eurocentric approach or an idiocentric approach. And then it must be combined with action, activism, scientific activism, and action plans must be drawn up as necessary. Okay, emic perspectives must be taken. We need have written extensive cross-cultural research design also, and the views of all sections of society, such as different socio-economic groups, different socio-cultural groups, etc., have also must be taken into account. So, for this, I request you to read my paper, Redefining Intellectualism for a post-globalized world. Why present-day intellectualism is obsolete, and why comprehensive reassessment of intellectualism is required. Okay. So I just request you to read this paper because I have only provided a brief summary, a broad overview, a high level overview, and the gist. It's not possible with me to delve into depth here for due to the reasons of constraints of time. But as I have said, I do request you to bear in mind whatever I have said, take it seriously, and we need more and more thought leaders. We need to gestate more and more thought leaders to to drive intellectualism in the 21st century. With these words, I end this video. Thank you very much once again.